Airplane mode. Ready? All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Oakland Mills Community Association Village Board of Directors. As always, we're going to start with our two administrative items. The first being approval of the minutes from the March 11th board meeting. Oh, wow. Is there a motion to approve? I'll take a motion from Andrew. Warren, can I take you as a second? All right, you're a second. All right, any discussion of those minutes? Okay, all in favor of approving? 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 0. And next is approval of agenda for tonight's meeting. We got a motion from Warren. I'll take a second from Andrew. Any discussion of tonight's agenda? All right, all in favor of approving? 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 0. All right, we're underway. First up, as always, is resident speak out. If we have any residents here in person or online who wish to speak for up to 3 minutes to the board, now is your chance. If you're online, just do the hand raise. If you're in the room, I should have gotten that clipboard, but did anyone check on that clipboard that you want to speak tonight? You're already speaking, you're already speaking. I know why you're here. Okay. I don't think we have anyone for resident speak out. All right. We are right into new business. First, as always, very happy to welcome Marty Altmans from Columbia Association. He is here to give the, well, it's supposed to be monthly, but I think we delayed you a couple of times.
We delayed a couple times.
Yeah.
You had bigger.
Yeah, we'll call it the monthly update. It's a little more than a month since the last update, but welcome back, Marty.
See everybody.
And it's all yours.
This one. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm here with our March update. It's kind of the end of the month. So I've got a second.
It's just the one page.
Making it harder and harder to use. Go away.
Just reboot.
Okay, and then find it right. Our computer is being a little funny too. Oh, no, want somebody.
Okay. I'll drag down it. We're doing the drag. There we go. Try that. So we'll start off with our program highlights. In February, with the collaboration with Columbia Gym and the Supremes, they held a Valentine's Day member engagement event at both fitness facilities, where members and staff filled out Valentine's Day cards around the club expressing how much they've enjoyed the club. It was a big hit, and this is one of the photos that they had around the club, but there were like hundreds of them all over the club for the couple days they did it. So it was a pretty big event that did well at both fitness clubs. They also kicked off the Tribe Kids coaches for kicking off another fantastic school year for the adventure days for the kids. The energy and excitement were incredible, especially with our Supreme Sports kids having an absolute blast under the guidance of Coach Hennick. As a new coach, Hennick has made an impressive impact on the start for the Tribe Kids group. On February 5th, so this is a month ago, they had the Afro Beats Fashion Blend at Supreme Sports Club. It was in a 1-hour Afro dance class, the fusion and sorry, I'm a little off. Tonight, a variety of street dance styles from different countries in Africa. It was a sell-out event with 150 people attending. The members and guests stayed after for a social hour to listen to music and food and they also had an African clothing vendor attend the event as well. And on April 26th, as part of the Long Reach Village Election Day, the Art Center ceramic students participated in an art sale in front of the Art Center front entrance, and the staff will offer friendly family art for the residents coming out. So if you need something to do on April 26th, if you've never had the bowls from the class, they are amazing pieces of art that you can get. So I highly recommend you get out to check out what they're going to have for sale. Some construction highlights from around the organization. If you've been walking around the lakes, you may have noticed the new gazebo on the lake. Capital improvements, refurbished the fishing pier at Elkhorn and completed annual parking lot inspections for Columbia wide and installed 2 bridges at Hobbits Glen Golf Course during the last month. It's actually, I believe tonight, CA is hosting a community meeting to gather input regarding CA's proposed natural resource management plan that's going on over at the headquarters building at 6 o'clock. So it's probably still going on right now, but it was a hybrid event. So if anybody had any interest in that, and I believe there's also a survey option then as well. Sustainability hosted a training session for the new stream waiter volunteers. The training included a classroom and field portions to demonstrate proper sampling procedures and safety protocols. 15 people completed the training and have been invited to the March and April sampling dates. With spring on the horizon, open space has been ramping up preparation for warmer weather with top lot mulching, trail maintenance, and cutbacks, transitioning the equipment from the winter to the summer and prepping landscapes for plants. The team is dedicated to bringing spring back to the community after an unusually long and cold winter. They're also starting construction at the outdoor pools. They're doing 3 big projects. Bryant Woods, they're replacing all the coping stone, skimmer, and tiles at the facility. Swansfield, they're doing some maintenance around the club to concrete around the pool area. And River Hill, they're doing a drainage project around the pool to help with some drainage where they've had some water sitting during some of the swim meets and stuff after big rains. Community Ops is completing one of their capital projects, making major upgrades to the Columbia Arts Center, and is thrilled to welcome the team back to show them the improvements. So it's not open yet, but it's just about getting ready for everybody. They're just starting to move back in, but it's been about 6-7 months now. The Art Center has been closed for the renovations, and they've actually been next door here at the Teen Center doing all their classes next door for the past few months. But I think everybody's excited to get back to the Art Center. And then finally, a couple CA points of pride. Picture below is the Community Ops Center, where we do all the training for the lifeguards and stage everything. But they helped the Girl Scouts this year as a distribution point. And if you've ever been in that warehouse, you know it's probably about double the size of the interior of this space. So you
where to get that.
yeah, now you know, like you can kind of picture like all those boxes all the way to the back are cookies. So it was more than a few cookies there for 2 days as they had everybody picking them up. The Supreme Sports Club hosted its blood drive on February 14th with Care First and American Red Cross, and they hit 103% of their goal and welcomed 10 new donors during the event. Sam Quick from Open Space, our assistant operations man there, obtained a master arborist certification, the highest certification one can achieve. Columbia Arts Center's returning to their Stonehouse, which we talked about a couple minutes ago. It opens mid-April with spring classes beginning the week of April 14th. Support our community through the mental well-being pillar of wellness. We've introduced 2 mental health certification classes for our team at CA that they can take. The certification will give the teams the tools to identify someone in crisis and guide them to the appropriate resources. And with assistance of learning in OD&T, the facility service team has completed numerous safety and job-specific trainings, including 14 OSHA topics, building maintenance and management, and project management basics. This kind of collaboration highlights the strengths of CA staff and how we can always work together to improve. I didn't want to call out any specific events, but if you've not been on the CA website, they have a great new events calendar. It's right at the top, and it's the third one, it's events. This calendar has everything going on at CA, and as we get closer to summer, all the movie nights, all the different events down at the lake are there. I highly recommend anybody online or anybody at the village, if you're looking for what's going on around Columbia, you can see, and then if you click on any of the topics, it pops up all the details along with the logos and attached flyers where you can find out about all the events going on CA. So I wanted to post there's none really specific right now coming up. It's still kind of that part right before it's cold and gets nice, but this is where you can start looking at, to see what's coming up to get outside and get moving. Finally, I have my update of my daughter. She is now officially 18
Aw.
months. We actually just were walking out here, and walked from Stevens Forest Pool to Blandare Park and hit all 4 top lots.
Nicely
between here
done.
and the park and back.
I'll take it.
Yeah, and she's already almost a swimmer. We took her to Great Wolf for her niece's birthday party. So she was playing in the wave pool there. And then any questions for me or anything that I need to take back?
I have one.
Yep.
On the new events calendar, could villages submit village events to that?
I don't know, but I went to see why not.
Okay.
So I will ask how to
Okay.
do that and then I'll get that to you guys.
I had a little star to ask that, so you read my mind.
I think you'll just be putting a marketing request in through Sam, but I'll ask him.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions
you, Marty.
online? I see Bill joined, Bill Paulette. I think Bill's giving a thumbs up in his little square up there.
He's a tiny little man.
Thank you
in a
very
big
much,
box.
Marty.
Yep, thank you.
So that building's over this Girl Scout cookies?
The building we don't sell them, we were just helping, so we were the drop off and distribution point, so we weren't selling them there, it was just us working with the Girl Scouts because they needed a spot to get them delivered and then distributed out to all the different troops.
So just to help.
Yeah, it was just to help, we're not selling them
A
yet.
place to keep the cookies in.
Yeah.
And they're not there anymore, so.
Yeah, they're all gone.
So don't even think about going.
Just a nice smelling.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, anything else for Marty?
Pathways, I think, during the snowstorm, we were out walking around Clary's, I think.
That's a good picture.
All right, well,
All right,
thank you.
thank you very much, Marty.
Sweet, yep.
Good seeing you.
Good seeing everybody again soon. If you got anything else, but I put a note already myself to. You can have a sense of info.
Thanks,
Okay.
Marty.
Sorry.
Okay, next up, we have something exciting and new here in Oakland Mills that we talked about, I think, at the beginning of the school year, or maybe last summer. I'm losing all track of time, but Stevens Forest Elementary School is a new Judy Center site. So we have Bonita Ward with us online to give us a brief overview presentation on our new Judy Center.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for letting me attend. I'm trying to share my screen with you now. Can you see it?
We do.
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm used to Google. We don't really use Zoom in the school system. So as long as you can see what I'm presenting. Yes, I am the new site coordinator at the new Judy Center at Stevens Forest Elementary. However, we work very closely with the Judy Center that is existing at Cradle Rock Elementary School. And for those of you who do not know what the Judy Center is, it was started by Judy Hoyer, who was Prince George's County, Maryland Public Schools Supervisor of Early Childhood Education Programs. And she recognized that children who came from lower income areas or children who had other obstacles, such as having special needs or experiencing homelessness, did not have access to the same quality early childhood experiences that children in more affluent areas experience. And therefore, they began a grant which benefits everyone within a certain catchment area for each school that has these Judy Centers located. These activities are offered through schools across the county. It is unique to Maryland, and they all support quality early childhood experiences and programs, not just for children, but for families as well. The Judy Center takes a unique 2-generational approach to programming, which means that we don't just teach the kids. It is essential that we teach the families. And when we say we teach them, we empower them, make them aware of resources, do case management, and really let them know the things that are out there in the community that they can access for themselves so that they will be strong families and ready to join school. It's all about school readiness, and we're doing that by strengthening families. A lot of people think that Judy Centers are a child care center, but we are not. We don't offer daycare sort of programming, it's all about family education. Now that we have 2 sites, this is our Judy Center team. We have multi-site personnel who work at both of the places, and that would be our program manager, Cindy Lamersa Lester, and our bilingual program assistants, Lourdes Salazar, who is there tonight. At Cradle Rock Elementary School, you'll find the family resource teacher is Kate Rolfe, and the family service worker is Nancy Smith. And at Stevens Forest, I'm the family resource teacher, Bonita Ward, and the family service worker is Tanisha Hand. But one thing you'll notice about the Judy Center is, unlike being in the classroom where I recently come out of, the job descriptions and the lines between the services that we provide and offered are not set in stone, and we all sort of carry the load for all of our programs and all of our families. There are 5 component standards that we have to meet in order to be a Judy Center, and MSDE does observe these and make sure that we're collecting data on it. There are 2 outcomes that we're really focused on: improved overall family well-being and increased school readiness. And the way that we do that is through high quality early childhood education and through comprehensive family services. So we are full day, full year, and that's why some people think that we're a daycare center, but we're not. What it means is that even when the school system has spring break or winter break or summer break, we continue to be there for the families, either providing services as needed for them, but continuing to provide some programs over the summer and during spring break as well. So we are full day, full year. We are all about family support and making sure that they have access, and that is individualized for each family. We have family engagement as one of the pillars of our programs, and that is getting families involved. So if we run a play group, we have Port Discovery come out or the Nature Center come out. Whatever they're doing isn't just for the children, it's in order to empower and educate the families as well, and teach them about the resources that are in the community, as well as how to help their children be more ready for school and have strong skills. We also participate in early identification and outreach, which is if children are struggling or they might have a special needs, they might have a speech delay, families may not even be aware that this is an issue for them. So we do meet closely with Child Find and help them to get identified if they have a special need of some sort or get their assessments and testing. And then after that, we can help them with the IEP process and also to follow through once they're in the school system and find other resources that are in our community that could help their child if they had a disability. And finally, our partnerships. So partnerships are very important to our programs because without our partners, we wouldn't be anything. They are the ones that we lean on to help when we're giving resources, as well as getting the word out for us, helping us to find more families. This is really important because it is grant-based, so it can be a little bit restrictive as far as who we are allowed to provide services for. We are allowed to provide services for children birth to 5 and their families who reside in the catchment area for Stevens Forest or Cradle Rock. Some parents don't know yet which school zone they live in, but that is actually on our interest form so that they could be able to find which school they would be residing in, because their little ones aren't attending school yet. They might not be aware. But those aren't the only families we're allowed to serve. If there are children birth to 5 and their families who are living in temporary housing or experiencing homelessness, we can serve them at either Judy Center, even if they're not from our catchment area. And the other exception is for children birth to 5 and their families with either IEPs or individualized service plans. And that means they're receiving services from Howard County Schools for some sort of developmental delay, or they might even be participating in a preschool program somewhere in the district. They can access our services as well because they're receiving an IEP. We tend to focus our efforts more on children who are not yet enrolled in formal programs, but that doesn't mean we can't help children who are enrolled. And it's not just the children, again, it's their families. So even if the child is attending pre-K all day, full day at Cradle Rock or at Stevens Forest, we can still provide services for the family and they can participate in evening and weekend sort of activities that we have as well. So some of the case management pieces that are good to know that we provide are meals, case management as far as referring out to health or referring out to mental health or referring out to something like the food bank if you needed help, or the diaper bank. We work on goal setting where families pick their goals. If they want to work towards home ownership, then we connect them with the resources in the community and we sort of support them as they're going through those steps. We also work with a home visiting program, but it's not necessarily always in the home. It could be at the library or the grocery store. And we work also with the Office of Children and Families that has a home visit component as well. We work with early education services, and we partner very closely with Head Start and the local childcare centers, helping the kids get ready for kindergarten, helping them to transition, as well as the family support center. They're now called the Patty Center. So for example, if a parent fills out that interest form and it turns out they don't live in our district, we can still refer them to the Family Resource Center, which would allow them to access similar services and supports. It just wouldn't be directly from the Judy Center. But health services, some people are unaware that we can help with adult education and career services as well, whether you're looking for a job or looking to train for one or looking to go back to the community college. We have a lot of programs that we can refer to, and we have a partnership with those programs. And some of them even have childcare while the parents are working towards their goals. We have parent education embedded in all the activities for family engagement. So whenever the children come to us, parents are having something that they can learn and take away as well. And the Parent Advisory Committee allows parents to have an active say and voice in the kinds of programming we have, because everything is driven by what the parents need. So these are just some pictures of ways that we have helped families with not only a meal kit, which helps with groceries, which are extremely expensive right now, but also gives them ideas for how to include your children at home and how the kinds of questions you can ask them in a book as well. So it's a wonderful example. Here we have health-related services coming in and educating the kids, where there's dental care or health care. And then you mentioned the tot lots at the beginning of this meeting. That's something that has been a field trip in the past, to take parents out in the community and show them what is around to do with little ones. And so the tot lots are a perfect example, because the parents were able to explore different playgrounds they didn't even know were in their backyard. So I kind of covered all of those things. How do we find our children? We have interest card surveys, which Lourdes is sharing with you, and I can also share virtually for you to distribute. We get referrals from our partners. So whether it's a physician's office or a child care center or any place that we coordinate with, we get referrals from the professionals there saying, hey, this family has little ones and they could use some help. Sometimes we chase them down in the neighborhood. I have been known to go right up to people on the playground and say, hey, do you live in this area? Do you know what the Judy Center does? So we do chase them down, and we find out through older siblings at schools and through word of mouth. And that's why we're so very grateful that you gave us your time tonight, because your word of mouth, you might not have a child who lives within the zones that we need or meets those criteria, but you might know a neighbor whose child is receiving special ed services, and you can say, hey, you know what? The Judy Center can help not only your little one, but you as well, and strengthen your family. And infants and toddlers referrals comes the other way around too. Just like we refer out to special ed if we think that the parents could use an assessment for their little one, infants and toddlers refers to us as well and says, hey, you're getting special ed services, you can access those play groups at the Judy Center. All right, so I think that's it for us, other than to know that the way that we calculate our data for our Judy Centers is they assess the kindergartners at schools that do have a Judy Center and schools that do not. And they find that children typically do much better in kindergarten when they've experienced the Judy Center. And that's all I have for you. I'm sorry about my doggie in the background.
We don't hear your doggy, but thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Benita, and thank you, Lourdes, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Benita. I have some cards, interest cards, and we also will have a
coffee and breakfast for parents, so I brought some, flyers too. We try to translate everything if we can, and this one is in Spanish of the interest card too, so I can pass them around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have them, but it's completely
Dun, dun,
free
give
for
it to you and
families,
then Brigida.
for the families.
We, Rita, could we, and Amy, could we scan these and like put them in our school news?
We actually
Newsletter?
included the piece the last time.
Okay, good.
But yeah, we'll happily share it in our
Yeah.
whole newsletter,
So
absolutely.
if anyone has questions.
Yeah, are there any
Yes.
questions tonight?
Oh,
It looks like Bill has a question. I can't hear. I'm sorry. Was there a question?
They're all free and they're
Yeah.
from.
Yes, Benita.
Oh, so Bill, hold on. Lourdes is answering the question in the room.
So all of the services are free, and this is through a grant from MSD, the Maryland State Department of Education, and it goes through the school system. So we have have to give information like data and everything to the Department of Education and the school system. So like the principal at the school and the early childhood office, and completely free for families. A lot of times we will have meals or things to give out to the families too, like maybe school supplies, anything that the family need, or we can connect them to the county resources, our partners, for anything that they need. Okay, so, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, Bill, now go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I work for Rec and Parks. I do before school care at Wilman Crossing Elementary School. And Benita, what do you have in the way of educating parents on how to parent? That's critical.
That's a good question. So we work with the PAC, the Parent Advisory Committee, and we survey them several times during the year about things that they would like to learn about, topics they would like to learn about. And then we also plan topics that we observe could be an area of growth for parents at that time. So for example, there was recently a potty training workshop. So parents identified that as an area of delay or need, and they were just at their wits' end. And so we had the Office of Children and Families come in. We supported them. We call it a lunch and learn. So we offer the lunch for them. We feed the parents. The children get a playtime in the play classroom by themselves with us, with the staff. And then other staff are running the lunch and learn and the training for parents. And then at the end, they get to take home materials and supplies that help them to carry out what they've learned while they're at home. So it's a combination of what do they identify that they need, and then us offering programs saying, hey, it seems like a lot of parents could use some support in redirecting behaviors. So let's hold a lunch and learn or an evening meal event where we help parents through some problem solving, and maybe we either hire a contractor who's familiar in the area, or we might develop it ourselves.
Okay, a key concern I have is parents disciplining children. I feel, and staff feels too, that many kids run the house. It's that simple. And we as staff wind up dealing with discipline with the kids, help them learn self-discipline, learn how to listen, learn how to do what you're told, et cetera, et cetera. And we feel a lot of that is missing in homes, regardless of the income in the home. Okay. So that whatever you could do, there used to be a class 30 years ago called Parent Effectiveness Training, but how to parent a kid, how to be a parent.
Yes, well, we do a lot of
parent your kids.
We do a lot of modeling when they're there with us in those play groups. The point of the play group isn't for us to lead and the parents to kind of like be on their phone in the background. The point is for the parents to be 100% fully engaged so that we can model. When issues naturally occur during those play groups, we can model and we can discuss some opportunities for redirection and working on behaviors. We can offer workshops and trainings for those as well. But what you're seeing is not unique according to the data, particularly post-COVID. There are a lot of struggles because parents were doing whatever they needed to in order to continue to work virtually. So they were giving kids a lot of screen time and whatever they wanted so that they could work. And now we have the fallout of that sort of cultural shift. And so we're working on that. So we do offer programs to model for parents. We can offer experts in the field to come out and lead trainings for parents. And anything that we could use, as well as the Office of Children and Families. And you could refer your families to the Office of Children and Families, who offer monthly programs about behavior. And they have like constantly things that you can sign up as a parent by age, whether it's picky eating or defiance or getting your kids off your screens. They have a lot of those things as well. So look into the Office of Children and Families and the Family Support Center.
We also partner with the Department of Health Department so that they can come and do a class for the parents and they children together. So it's combined and it's support.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
No, I'm super excited.
It's a
about this.
lot. It was a lot.
Well, thank you very much. We're
Thank you for
definitely
that.
excited to have a Judy Center right here in our community. We know it can do a lot of good, and we will help spread the word, spread the word.
It's late. All right, thank you so much. We appreciate you giving us time in your meeting
Thank you very
tonight.
much.
Thank you.
So much.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, next in our new business, we have Brigida presenting the draft fiscal 26 OMCA budget. Brigida did a nice job in some uncertainty because we're, of
Right.
course, for lack of a better term, under threat from the Columbia Association of not getting our first quarter distribution if we don't sign the contract. So, you know, this is based on some assumptions, but go ahead, Brigida.
Yeah, so our budget, you'll see, if you look at last year's, it's very similar. I was able to obtain our numbers from CA. They typically send what our annual charge share grant will be. So I was able to get those numbers. That's the 3% increase that was provided to us in the CA budget. We did have a banner rental year again this year, so I kind of used that number. And how I get that number is I basically look at, well, Ashley looks at the rentals that we have scheduled. And we don't use that exact number, we go a little bit under, and then we use our leases, which are pretty typical. They don't really change other than a few dollars here and there from year to year. One of the new things that is currently in the proposed village management contract, and what's been requested of us is that in our budget that we either break even or we have an increase at the end, whereas before we did not have to have that. So I did the budget with a $400 profit from the year, so based on the numbers that are proposed. I will say I did up special events, not by much, but a little bit as far as expenses. Because Amy and I have found that performers are charging more. Event, what am I thinking of? Supplies, yeah, for events are just simply more expensive, so we did up that amount. I did lower advertising because, as you remember, last year we did stop advertising on the wedding wire, and we have not seen a downturn in rentals at all. And so our advertising has really been a lot of word of mouth, and Ashley does a lot of Instagram posts and puts just messages out there, and it's really served us well. So I did lower that. I'm trying to think of any other areas that maybe. Oh, one thing you will notice different, and I did send an email about it, is our audit. This is our year for an audit. All of the villages, Sharon from Wild Lake, the village manager, she worked with an accounting firm and got a proposal for all of the villages. So it is a reduced rate, but it is definitely more than the last time we had an audit. But this is reduced from the original numbers that were put out, and so we were thankful for that. But that's on years we don't have an audit, that line item is typically 0. So this year we did have to did have to account for the audit. And I don't really think there were any other major differences. I mean, utilities, they, they just keep on going up.
Yeah.
Yes,
I didn't
Jonathan.
notice this now electronically.
Oh, what's
um,
that?
Payroll fees, 3,626, but we didn't have any in 25. Do we not pay ADP every year for payroll processing?
Oh, that is a good question. So yes, we always pay payroll fees. One of
Okay.
the spreadsheets under the, again, the new management contract is they want us to break our fees down further. So previously payroll fees were included in the other line, which is
Okay.
why the other line was 10,000. But then when
Okay.
they wanted
Okay.
us to separate it, I just basically looked at what we would just pay in payroll fees and did a line item for that. Because
Okay.
that's what CA had requested. Thank you, Jonathan. I forgot to mention that. And the other thing that they've added in their proposed management contract was under cost of sales. It doesn't really affect us because we don't do tent rentals, but they want that item to be a little more specific. So we do HOA documents on a very small amount, but we don't do any tent rentals. So that doesn't really apply to open mills.
So what's the difference between estimate and budget?
So estimate is what our end of fiscal year 2025, what our proposed estimate budget will come out to be. Our accountant does, we voted on the third quarter financials. And so from those third quarter financials, we just do a formula to come up with the estimate, basically dividing the first three, dividing the third quarter financials in three, and you literally pretty much multiply or.
Is it
what- that
And
is
then
something-
add another quarter.
Yeah.
It's an estimate of actuals.
Yes.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Okay, now, thank you for asking that one.
Now, some of them I can kind of know what they're gonna be, and some of them it is a little bit more of an estimate. And some of them will be a little more, and some of them will be a little less, because our rentals are not a clean slate across the board. You can't divide them evenly amongst the quarters. So it may vary a little bit, but. And this is just a draft. It's the first time you're seeing it. So hopefully any questions or concerns that you would have, you certainly can ask. And then it would come back for a vote in April.
Okay. Any questions from the board first? Okay. Yes, ma'am?
So why is camps on there if we don't do tent rentals?
So CA, their line items created by CA, they have a standard budget formula, basic layout for each of the villages. And so some villages do camps. And so they, we have to have it on there, even though Oakland Mills doesn't do it.
And the
I
tent
love that
rental
question.
is
Yeah.
in reference
awesome
to,
question.
is that in reference to like event rental?
Yes.
And then the other places, so it's not camp tents.
Yeah, it's like,
Kind of tent.
I think it really, like historic Oakland.
Yeah.
That
that's what I
would
was
be probably the main one that it applies to.
Yeah.
Cause they do a lot of outdoor weddings and they have.
Have a huge
tents.
venue.
Yeah. And I think, I saw Lewis had his hand up, but maybe he put his hand down.
Yeah, I had my hand up, but I wanted you to scroll down as you were talking, but it looks
Oh,
like. you
sorry,
scrolled.
I realized I hadn't done that. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
So obviously, this is the draft, introduces new business. Our next step with this will be to provide Brigida any feedback, and then certainly at one of our 2 April meetings, by the last meeting, we will have to vote to adopt next year's budget to ensure that when the new fiscal year starts on May 1st, there is an operating budget for OMCA. So, you have some time, look it over. If you have any other questions for Brigida, just email them and copy the board. So we're all seeing what all the questions are and seeing what her answers are. All right, thank you, Brigida. On to old business. First item of old business, donation review. So when we talked about donations at in the fall, we reviewed the donation policy and we talked about how if we're having a better than expected year, we might have an opportunity to revisit. And we do have an opportunity to revisit if we choose to take the opportunity. So this is back as old business because we've already discussed it. It's just been several months since we've discussed it. And you have the donation policy in front of you. And basically what the donation policy says about this is we're now looking kind of below the line, halfway down the page. So the top of it is kind of is what we did. Am I looking at this right in the fall? Yeah, and the bottom is if we want to revisit it. So generally what we do is first of all, if we decide we're going to do another round of donations, we look at the donation requests already submitted in the fall that we didn't fully fund for whatever reason and consider whether we want to give additional funding to those requests. And then we can also put out a call with another deadline. And the deadline will have to be tight because it has to be done by our last meeting in April. But we put out a call with another deadline for additional donation requests under the same criteria as when we do our fall donations. So, you know, they have to be a nonprofit organization, 501c3 with an IRS, you know, determination letter, all that fun stuff, you know, state what their request is, that, you know, how the funds will be used, et cetera. And then we can consider everything. Basically, if we're going to do that under our new business, old business format, we'd have to make the decision tonight that we want to do another round of donations. We don't necessarily have to decide on a total amount because we can work that as we look at the donation requests that come in and as Brigida informs us of, you know, how much we're dealing with as we get further into the fourth quarter. But we would have to decide to do that tonight so that we can get word out that we're doing it because we only have 2 meetings left to then receive the donations in basically 2 weeks' time. Or is this one of the ones where we have 3 meetings? I didn't even look at the calendar. I don't even know. Wait a minute. I don't think we do. No, we don't. So we would have to receive them by our meeting on the 8th, look at them on the 8th under, you know, kind of a new consideration, and then ultimately determine what donations and what amounts we want to disperse at our meeting on the 22nd in order to get it in during this fiscal year.
Sorry about that.
I thought you were excited.
No,
Yeah.
Terps games are over, but I was gonna look up our community association because I was gonna look up our meetings and I had to come off airplane mode.
It's the 8th and the 22nd.
Right, okay.
And we don't have an extra Tuesday in between, so it is gonna be a really tight deadline to get this out if we're looking for new donation requests and then getting them back in. Any questions about the kind of the spring revisit process? I know some of us have been through it before and some of us haven't because the past couple of years we haven't had the opportunity where we could look at additional donations.
Well, we have a certain amount. Do we have a ballpark of how much money we have available?
We could comfortably, yes, I do, and we could comfortably do the same amount that we did in the fall. And this is the number based on the projection from our accountant at the end of the third quarter financials.
So that would be a total of another 5,000.
That's pretty
Okay.
decent.
Yeah.
What's wrong with
So
it?
where-
Yeah, it looks like, well, I was looking at the budget that we just looked at and it shows the 5,000 for the year that we had already given away and then only a $400 profit for the year. So I'm wondering where that extra.
The 400 profit is the 26 budget.
Oh,
Yeah, so it
Okay,
would be under the
okay.
estimation line, but as I said, that estimation is just that. And so I would go frankly with the accountant's projection
okay.
more readily. And when I say
Okay.
we can comfortably do the same amount we did in the fall.
Okay.
I would not say that if we were not in that position.
Yeah, to get
This is
a
from the
better idea of
accountant's
what
work.
position we're in, we don't have them in front of us, but think back to the third quarter financials we reviewed a meeting or two ago. the. We're pretty well in the black.
Okay, that's good.
I don't remember the exact number it was at the end of the third quarter, but we're doing well.
Well, and if you recall, what happens at the end of a year is we are allowed to keep 20% of our cash reserves, and anything over that, we have to return to CA. So it's no longer ours, it goes back into CA's.
Other questions?
So we would vote on that tonight, like whether we wanted to do that or not.
So we would vote tonight on whether we want to proceed with the second round of donations. And then Brigida can put the word out. The ones we already have, we can reconsider those. That's automatic. It's just a question of soliciting for new donations. And then we could review what we've received at the April 8th meeting and vote on them at the April 22nd meeting.
I'd like to make a motion that we solicit for another round of donations in the amount of $5,000 total.
Okay, motion recognized. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion?
I think Bill had his hand up.
Bill, was that a second or a question?
It was a second. It was a
Okay.
late second. It was a third. It was a third.
Okay. Then I will call the vote. All in favor? Okay, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0 to do another round. So I think we need to, I guess, quickly get the
I can
word
do it
out
tomorrow.
tomorrow and probably
Yeah.
set a deadline of the Friday before our next meeting.
So April 4th, that's what I was
Yeah, 'cause that
predicting. Okay.
Basically gives you like a business date or then pull it together and then we go from there.
Yeah, no, I can do that.
Okay. Perfect. What do I do with the agenda and all this mess?
I have the same problem. I
There
just
it
have to
is. Yeah,
reshuffle.
where
my
am
papers.
I? Okay, our next item of old business would be the CA management contracts. You want me to start that or do you want to start?
You can start it. I'll let you lead.
You let me lead. I don't have a whole lot of new stuff to say. So obviously the management contracts still are where they were. And Brigida had sent an email to all of us to ask whether we were interested in co-signing on, along with several other villages, to a note to the CA president and board that we still consider ourselves to be in good faith negotiations, and per the contract, that should trigger an additional 6-month extension of the current contract, which would mean that instead of expiring at the end of April, it would take us through September 30th. I think the CA president and some on the staff probably have a difference of opinion. They think negotiations are concluded. You kind of heard about that from Brigida at the last meeting where they sent the red line back. They said, you know, yes, yes, no, 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 yes, yes, we're done. We've done our negotiations. We don't, I shouldn't say all villages, but Oakland Mills, you know, based on our email traffic and the conversations with Brigida and several other villages don't necessarily feel that way, because there really wasn't a lot of back and forth negotiation. Can we meet in the middle? It was basically managers get a proposed couple of contracts from CA, managers doing the negotiation, redline the contract, send it to CA. CA comes back and says, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, now sign, or we're not going to give you your first quarter assessment share funds. So that to us didn't seem like negotiation. It didn't seem like that to several of the other villages. So I think as of right now, it's Oakland Mills and 7 other villages proposing to send this jointly. It's not unanimous. It's not all the villages.
So
Which-
when you sent a letter out to us, I thought there were 9 villages listed.
There
with the
were, one of
versus,
them asked to have their name removed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very late afternoon update.
Yeah, that was a late afternoon update.
Gotcha.
And I actually talked to the chair of that village, and they don't oppose what we're doing. They wanted to be removed because they didn't think the letter was specific enough about what exactly it is we want to continue negotiating. And I actually felt that so what they thought was a flaw, I actually thought was a feature. Because if all the villages had to get together on all the specifics, then it would probably take us more than the time we have left just to finalize the letter, because we'd have to keep going back and forth amongst each other. This is just my personal opinion. I actually see a silver lining in all of us not signing on to this letter because CA treats this as a two-party negotiation. It's them and the villages. But we're not the villages. We are 10 independent villages, and some of us have decided that we think we should still be negotiating, and others perhaps have decided that we haven't. And I think this reinforces that it's really CA negotiating with 10 independent legal entities, not the villages, as under one umbrella. So I think it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. But a majority of us, at least through email, have already, said to Brigida, yeah, we want to keep Oakland Mills on this. And it sounds like, the same is happening with, like I said, at least 7 of the other villages and village boards right now.
Yes, and they're hoping to send the letter tomorrow prior to the CA board meeting on Thursday evening.
I'm guessing that would be hand delivered, so it doesn't get delayed in the mail or something.
Actually, it's probably gonna be emailed.
Okay.
We'll see it.
Yeah,
And this one will get emailed to all the right people the first time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
the 2 village manager representatives have been Steve from Harbor's Choice and Laura from Hickory Ridge. So Laura has kind of taken the lead on this one, and
Okay.
she said she would be forwarding
But it won't be read.
in the meeting.
It'll just be sent before.
No, it will be
It will
read.
be read?
Yes,
It'll- yeah.
yes. It will also be read during resident speak out, provided we are given the time to do so.
Did you guys sign up?
We absolutely did.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Also, if you're keeping up with emails, we are getting feedback from residents to the joint message that Karen and I sent out a couple of weeks ago, as well as the follow-up message. And I think so far, the residents we're hearing from agree with our position. We're not really getting any kind of, pushback or even, but have you considered, anything like that? There is one member of the CA board who's in favor of the process to begin taking over the buildings, who's supplying replies to the residents who are writing into the CA board. I don't necessarily agree that everything he's saying will in fact turn out to be true, because some of that, some of what he is saying is unlikely. It cannot happen is actually like in the long-term plan. If you look at the presentation that the CA staff put together, it starts with them taking over, booking and collecting the revenue, but it clearly right there in the plan, it ends with them taking over the buildings. I mean, it even says, I forget what it literally says, but basically that this is a step toward, it's a
Yeah,
path.
option 3 is a
to-
path towards option 2.
Right. So I remain very concerned about that.
And
Okay, now I'm handing it off to you, 'cause
Okay,
that's all
well,
I have.
and I have one thing I've noticed, and I've noticed it in listening to CA board meetings. I've noticed it in conversations. I've just noticed it in a lot of places, in a lot of the discussions that have been focused around the contracts, the CA management of the facilities. And so I thought one of the things I could do at this meeting is to clarify exactly the various things that are currently in discussion at different levels. So the one thing that we were initially talking about, which we were sending the letter regarding, was the management contracts. Those used to be renewed every year. They then moved to a 2-year cycle. Now they were on a 5-year cycle. The management contracts are between the Columbia Association and each of the 10 villages individually, and are signed by the village boards and the CA president, and are basically the agreement between the Columbia Association and the village associations for us to manage their buildings. It includes, basically any take repairs, for instance. If there is any exterior repairs to the building, those are automatically funded through CA. Anything interior, currently under $1,000, we pay for out of our Oakland Mills Community Association budget. Anything above $1,000, interior is paid for by the Columbia Association. And that can get tricky. If it's like 11 something, sometimes we do a little bit of negotiating. If it's something like the heater in the women's bathroom where there wasn't any heat, and so we asked, can we get a better heating system? CA covered that because ultimately you need to provide heating in your facility. So there is some negotiation within that, but as a general rule, that's kind of how that situation works. And then there's the financial part of it, and it talks about basically how we have to do an audit every few years. It talks about the insurance that we have to hold, both as the Oakland Mills Community Association and then any third-party agreements that we enter into. So those are some of the things that are included in the management contracts. And each year, each 5 years, or whenever they're renegotiated, obviously, some of the money parts change because, of course, the increase in cost, increase for labor per hour, some of the CA staff, crew members that do the repairs. But also just sometimes different things that are, you know, whatever may be happening, particularly in that building, you know, if there's changes in the building, et cetera. So those are the management contracts. It used to be one contract. This year, both CA and the villages thought it would be a good idea for there to be a facilities agreement. And CA is calling it a grant agreement. The villages would like it to be called an annual share agreement. So those are just, that's what's being negotiated. That's what we'd like the extension on because we didn't feel like we were actually given the opportunity to negotiate. The next part is the CA management of the facilities. That is the presentation that was given by Jackie Tuma to the CA board on February 27th. And what will be voted on, whether or not they're going to move forward with to Thursday evening at the March 27th meeting, CA board meeting. So there's a lot of those two items getting intermingled, and they absolutely are intermingled, but for this purpose, they are separate situations. And then on top of that, the funding that the Columbia Association provides to the villages and their assessment share, this was a 3% increase this year that basically gives us our bulk amount for our budget. That is given a one line item from the CA board in the budget to all of the villages, one lump sum. And then there is an allocation formula that is created by the village managers. And as to how that money is distributed to each village. That is not part of the contract. CA doesn't really have anything to do with that other than we let them know, meaning the audit office, the financial office of CA, so they know how to distribute what the amounts of the money to distribute to each of the various villages is. We had an opportunity during this management negotiation cycle to change that, but if we didn't change it from what it was, in the contract itself, it said it would just keep it the same as it had been. So, like I said, there's been a lot of, I think, some confusion, and all meaning well, I think, but I just wanted to clarify that there are 4 separate things happening, and different parties negotiating those different things. So that's really what I wanted to clarify this evening. And the only other thing is I have gone through when CA provided their return contracts with what they accepted that we asked for and what they didn't accept. They didn't list like what they didn't accept, or they didn't provide any rationales as to why they didn't accept them. They just didn't include them. So I took them one next to the other and wrote down exactly which they did not accept. And was it something that Oakland Mills based on our discussions, was something that we really wanted to push on, or was it something that maybe it was some of the other villages where it was something that they wanted to push on? So I did go through, so when we reach that step, if we're allowed to reach that step, I do have those all pulled out for negotiation's sake, so. That was a lot of information, but I.
That was really good information.
Felt it was good to clarify.
It's good information, and I'm intentionally making Brigida's life harder because I keep intermingling them. And
We all do it.
well, it's because they need to be, and one of the things that concerns me is when CA came out with this building proposal, one of the questions that the three board chairs who were selected to go in and meet with the president, council and CFO for CA asked was, should we continue this process? Because what you're proposing could substantially change things. And the response was unrelated. And I mean, from a negotiation standpoint, et cetera, yeah, I guess technically yes, but if the term of the building management portion of the contract is 5 years, and they're proposing to start implementing what they're proposing, if it gets voted in by the board within 2 years, then it can't be unrelated because it changes the nature of the relationship that we're signing up for in this contract. So I've been intentionally intermingling them because I don't think it serves us well to silo these things because then it's not clear to me how even CA intends to bring it all together if all of these things just pass as they are, because the timelines start conflicting with each other, and I'm not sure where we or they go from there. The other reason I'm intermingling it is because of the financials. CA's counsel was very firm when we were in there talking about assessment share, and I still refuse to call it the grant. I'm going to call it assessment share because it's collected on our behalf from our residents who are members of our village association, not CA, that due to CA's fiduciary responsibility, since they hold that money, it has to be considered a grant, and we have to meet certain conditions to receive that grant money, or they're not being responsible. So the other reason I keep intermingling all of this is my concern is, as soon as if they roll out this centralized booking and centralized revenue collection with disbursement back to the villages of rental funds, they're going to say the same thing. Well, now we're holding the money. We have the fiduciary responsibility to make sure everything is good before we hand any money over. Now, guess what, villages? It's a grant. You're no longer setting your rates and collecting what you collect for staffing these buildings and putting on, these events or hosting people who are having these events. You are now receiving a grant from us, just like what your residents are paying in assessment share based on property values is coming back to you as a grant. So I know I make it confusing because then you have to explain that they're separate, but I'm intentionally intermingling all of this because ultimately I think that's what's going to happen. If all these things happen, then, just based on that conversation, that hour we spent in that conference room at CA a couple of months ago, that's just where I see it going. And that's really one of the reasons, like, okay, fine, you want a centralized booking system, whatever. Like I've been saying, offer it as a service that we can either buy into or opt out of. But once you also say, oh, and by the way, we'll hold the money and somehow it'll come back to you. We haven't defined how yet. That's where I start getting really nervous about things and say, well, then this is not separate from the contracts because the contracts establish not only the management relationship, but the financial relationship. And this potentially changes that.
I don't understand how they can negotiate that without telling us what the terms are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's what I.
I think that was the most frustrating thing from the beginning.
Right.
Is it's not that the villages weren't willing to look at maybe some new ways to approach, our rentals. I don't think it was that at all. I think that it was saying that they just wanted to increase revenues and not really giving any information as to how they saw they were going to do that, or,
All about money.
So I think I'm I think I've exhausted my words on this one until Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now we'll see what their response is to the extension of the contract through September 30th.
Should we vote to, so we can send that letter on behalf of our board, like, can I mention that we, vote to send that letter to the
Actually,
proper people,
because of
so
the
yeah,
time,
yeah.
that's why Brigida was doing the emails and we already had three
Oh.
people weigh in.
Oh, it's
saying
already been
yes, so
sent.
we already hit a majority, yeah. So,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, okay,
You're covered.
that's good.
we're covered, yeah, we're covered.
Hi, Brigida, this is Vicky. So I knew that Dorsey Search, I believe, had declined to sign the letter. Which other village has now declined to sign the letter?
I don't know,
I thought I saw 9 on there.
have they, yeah.
Well, that's what I thought, but I
I'm
thought I
not-
just heard someone say that there was 8,
I'll
7
let-
now.
I'm going to let that village not appear on the letter because I don't know whether they've like formally voted or this is what they're leaning toward. Because my conversation with their chair was, we don't want to sign right now, but you know, we're not opposing it and it's not necessarily that we'd never sign, although you know, never is coming quickly because it has to be done by Thursday. So I'm going to keep that private and let that go on their record in their open meeting if they've had that
Oh,
meeting.
okay, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. We'll move on to the board chair report. A couple of things. Actually, I'm gonna like combine board chair with education stuff. Just to help save us some time. So first of all, they blind CC'd. I don't know if everyone got this, but just for your information, Oakland Mills Interfaith is celebrating their 50th anniversary on May 4th from 3:45 to 6.
I'm glad you said that.
So I don't know if everyone got that flyer or it just came to me, but I wanted to make sure everyone's aware that
What time?
May 4th, 3:45 PM to 6 PM. Obviously, it's at the Interfaith Center,
What time does it start, Jonathan?
3:45.
I also think the green team was doing something that they sent me and I forgot to-
They are having that's a separate thing. They're having their Green Day. I think that's sometime, that's in April. Yeah,
That's not till April.
yeah.
Well,
And that's,
Next week.
that email was like, if we wanted to have a booth, it wasn't just, hey, come, you know, come join us. I mean, it's an event, anyone can come, but some other good news. The planning board at their May 1st meeting at 7 in the Banneker Room at the Howard Building. Among the items on the agenda will be the Oakland Mills Middle School Building Addition. I don't see that running into any issues with the planning board, but just for
Calvin
your
Ball
information,
announced it on
it's
the
just,
Facebook page.
I was getting that next. It's
Sorry,
very nice to
didn't
see
mean to
that.
take your thunder.
It's very nice to see that. To see that moving along. And then, of course, yes, the good news when it comes to the Oakland Mills Oakland Mills Middle renovation is County Executive Ball did announce that he intends to fully fund the HCPSS fiscal 26 capital budget request. So included in that capital budget request is the Oakland Mills Middle School renovation in addition. Of course, it's multi-year. So there's already some funding flowing for the planning, which we've seen. So it's it'll be $12,631,000 from the county, plus $10 million in state funding for a total of $22,631,000 in fiscal 26 on the middle school renovation and addition project. The whole project, if it stays on track from here on out, will be completed for occupancy in September of 2029. So as we've talked about before, we should expect to see stuff starting like as soon as the school year ends this year, because that's the timeline. They have to get going on it. And of course, as we saw in the planning document and in other documents I've passed around, the addition is going to go, you know, kind of roughly on the west side of the building, kind of it, you know, a bit in toward the fields, although it's not going to take too much of that. There's going to be a separate carpool loop and bus loop, so hopefully that will alleviate some of the traffic issues we have on Kilimanjaro Road by having more space for, you know, carpools and buses and everything. Because there will be more kids going to that school when it's all done. It's gonna add 200 seats. So, you know, instead of a roughly 500 seat school, middle school, it'll be a roughly 700 seat middle school. So very good to see that happening. There was not yet an opportunity to fund Oakland Mills High. That's still kind of next up in the capital improvement plan. Hopefully it stays kind of next up in the capital improvement plan. And that'll be a go next. I guess while I'm on education things, it's been kind of a rough year at Oakland Mills High. There's, you know, been a lot of tragedy, but some good news. The girls basketball team was runner-up for the state championship. There were already county and regional championships. Boys indoor track set a record with their 11th indoor track championship.
Wow.
I believe girls placed third at the states, and then they had a few wrestlers place in the top 10 at the state championships. And then the band and orchestra are off for assessments, so hopefully they bring good results back, and you know, hopefully the year can continue on a higher note, because it hasn't been a fantastic year there to date, with some, you know, pretty tragic things happening.
When
So
you say assessments, are they, what is it, adjudication, where they go to one of the high schools and play? Okay,
Yep.
yeah, I did, yep, I remember that.
yeah, and they are actually like graded again. For a while, they had kind of suspended that. and
Oh,
it
wow.
was- Yeah, but they are graded on those assessments again. Oh, and the middle school will be heading out to music in the parks in Hershey Park again. So they swept last year, so hopefully they can do that again this year. Yeah, I was gonna mention that in the bulletin board. Yeah, the PTSA is trying to raise funds to help some of those kids get to the music in the parks, because it's not inexpensive. Yeah. Yeah, I had some other bulletin board stuff like the fundraisers and stuff, but that's kind of the board chair / education report / I'm done and I'm turning it over to Karen.
Okay, so I'll give you guys a quick update. So I don't know if you guys remember that we had the meeting on March 13th, where resident speak out was a little bit wiggy. And so as soon as that happened, I started getting emails from residents saying, hey, I can't sign up for resident speak out. What's going on? And I started asking questions. So I had been asking for days, like, what's going on with this? What's going on with this? I don't know that I'm quite satisfied with the explanation that the board received as to why that happened. However, people did show up to protest. And everybody who came to protest in person, or if they were online, we did give them an opportunity to speak. Because we don't want to silence the residents. I think that's really important. So hopefully that will not happen again. Everybody will get a chance to speak. Marty kind of talked about tonight is the charrette for the natural resources plan. So I know a couple of people are going to that, and I'm looking to get feedback from anybody who attended that, just to hear how it went. I'm personally feel very invested in the natural resources plan that Columbia Association is going to come up with. So I just really want to keep track of that as it goes through its process. Tomorrow night should be an interesting night. What we worked on the 13th was the policies. I don't know if that whole dump that we got, Brigida. I have been asking, we have online, we have all of those policies very well organized, so you could go in and look at them very easily. So they're very searchable. And I asked if those could be made public, and I don't know the status of that, so I'll be following up on that tomorrow to make sure, because I would like residents to be able to see those, to go in and weigh in on them. So more to come. It looked like there were about 5 policies. What we had been told, what we agreed to at the end of that policy meeting was, of all of those policies that we were trying to review, what were our top 5 that we wanted to do something with? And I did not put any in, only Sky Anderson from Hickory Ridge has put any policies in that she thinks that we probably can get rid of, but I want to really look at them and make sure that whatever's in the deed and the charter. I spent a lot of time on the phone tonight with a local attorney talking to me about all the different things with what the board should be controlling and what the staff actually gets to control. So we'll take a good look at that. And last but not least, we will be voting on the proposal that CA presented on whether or not to take over management of the buildings, and I will be voting against it. Because my sense is that it doesn't seem like a good deal for the villages at all. And the majority of people really don't want it. So, and that's all I've got. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Go for it.
I did look at the attachments to Thursday's meeting,
Mhm.
and I did see they have like you said, the 5 policies. And I was wondering, some of them, I can see why they, maybe are no longer necessary, but I was wondering, the one that stuck out at me was the affirmative action policy. Is there a newer policy in place that replaces that? I mean, I watched some of the meeting from last week, but I didn't watch it in its entirety. So if the answer is in the meeting, I'll watch the rest of the meeting.
Well, that's a really good question, because one of the things we asked for in that meeting was if we're gonna say we no longer need this policy, what are the things that replace it? And John kind of said, oh yeah, we have stuff to replace it, but there was nothing solid. So I will want to see, like, if we're gonna get rid of that, and it might make sense to do it because now,
There's a
I mean,
newer one.
there's newer policies, the way that we do things, even the way that we set up the strategy, right? So I want to see what are the policies that replace that.
And it's quite extensive.
Yeah.
That particular
Yes.
policy was very extensive.
Yeah.
So that was my question. And like I said, I didn't watch the full meeting, but Amy and I watched a good part of it, and then we didn't.
I watched the resident remarks part, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just had that question.
Do you think that the Columbia board will vote in favor of like trying to take over the villages, or have you guessed at that? I know, I think there's been some speculation, but or maybe you don't know, or.
You know what, I've been trying to count votes for the past couple of weeks. I know at least one person is definitely gonna vote for it.
Okay,
I think that there are several board members who their villages don't want it. And they may be looking for a reason to vote for it anyway.
okay.
So it could have 3 or 4 votes for. It really depends. I'm very lucky. I have an incredible relationship with this village board. We're very well aligned. We speak to each other regularly. I don't know necessarily what the relationships are. I know that Long Reach, they enjoy a relationship similar to what we have here. So like, I think the Long Reach board member will vote like I do.
Okay.
The River Hill board member will probably vote like I do. There's some questions like, I don't know, I can't read some of the others.
Okay.
And I don't want to say who, I don't want to call anybody out.
Okay. Yeah, it could be they don't know
Right.
either, actually.
I'm okay, call those 2 people, I'm pretty solid with them. Reg Avery and Nina also released a letter. I know what Eric wrote up in his newsletter for River Hill, so that's why I feel pretty confident saying I know how they're gonna vote.
Okay.
What are the arguments for voting for this from the villages? I don't know what those are. Is it because they feel that the CA can help them manage the buildings and help with the rentals, or why does anyone want to give it up? I just don't understand.
I'll try to say that. So I think that there's one village who doesn't feel that they have the amenities that the other villages have, so they don't get the rental income that we get. But
I can see that.
right,
Okay,
and
that's-
so I
that's
think
great.
in some ways, they may think that the way that the money is divided up is completely unfair, and if they take it away, so if they take that away from the 10 villages and put it into the hands of a central character, that entity then will disperse the funds, which they feel might be more fair. That's the only rationale that I can see is for doing.
That's what I
Yeah.
was looking at that, and because we have a lot of buildings, we have a lot of successful rentals, I think. So I'm not sure they all do, no.
Well, yeah, some of them they don't have neighborhood centers. Like we have this building, the other barn, and we have 3 neighborhood centers, right? And we actively rent those. Some places have very small rooms. Harper's Choice Kaler Hall has a huge, massive room for weddings. They even have like a room for the bride to hang out in before the wedding. Stuff like that. But I think that could be, I could think that could be some of it one. But in the meantime, but the thing is because we commingle with the county also puts amenities in the villages that like, I'll use Owen Brown as an example. Owen Brown has a very small community center, right? But they also, just down the street from them, they have the Interfaith Center
Right.
that has a lot of large rooms that people can use, right? And then they also have, they just got a senior center, right? A beautiful senior center. They've got a library right there. So they've got some amenities that CA would not want to duplicate. Like it would not make sense to duplicate that. And I don't know, does Owen Brown have, I'm looking at Brigida because she lives in Owen Brown. You guys don't have a neighborhood center, you just have the community center, right?
So that's almost like competition for them. So they won't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But in the meantime, there's things that the villages do that we do want to make sure get funded, right? So, for example, River Hill and Owen Brown both have newsletters that they mail to all their residents. That's a really nice thing for them to be able to do. It keeps everybody informed, things like that. So you get it in your mailbox. Dorsey Search has a newsletter that they actually, I think they pay some of the young kids in the neighborhood to deliver, so they put it on everybody's door. These are the types of things that get funded, right? We do our fall festival, we have Jazz in the Mills.
Sure.
Harper's Choice has a July 4th parade, River Hill has a July 4th parade. These are all really, really nice things that, you know, kind of give the village each a unique identity. So I do want to see those things continue to be funded, and I would like us to make sure, let's make sure that we're funding the villages adequately for the things that they want to do for the residents.
But CA is not spelling out that they'll support those things, correct?
No.
Yeah, I think that's the main problem. I mean, if like, I think if, you know, CA could provide like a very detailed plan showing that everyone will be better off, then I think everyone might vote for it. But until they see that, then I mean, I have problems, and most people have problems, and I guess we'll see how the CA board votes.
Right, and I think that the presentation that they gave on the 27th, it had a lot of conclusions, but how did you come to those conclusions? Like one of the things that they said was, we believe if we take over, we can increase revenue by 10%. How are you gonna do that? Like, why? Why do you think that that's possible? Where does that money come from? And, you know, I'll use as an example, Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but we rent the neighborhood center at Stevens Forest to the village in Howard. We don't necessarily charge them the maximum rate because they are also a 501c4, I believe.
There are three.
Are they a three? And the work that they do is really important. And we, like CA, are a 501c4, and we are invested in things that benefit the community, right? Like this is a benefit to the community. The village in Howard helps seniors to continue living independently. They offer all kinds of services to the seniors. They have all kinds of social activities that they do. That's really important to our community. What would happen if we had to maximize revenue for that neighborhood center? They might not be able to afford it. Right, so then we're, you know, so I don't know that there's not an option for them, but it seems like it's nice for them to be able to use our neighborhood center for that. A lot of the neighborhood centers are nursery schools, so I just think it's a better deal for the residents when it's a more personalized touch, and the villages, you know, are their own entities.
I guess that's my other problem with it. It almost sounds like CA wants to maximize profit over supporting the villages. And just like the example you gave, Karen.
Right.
That's what I'm concerned about.
So in that conversation that the three chairs had with CA leadership, the president mentioned maximizing revenue multiple times. And you know, when I even said, well, that's not necessarily always what we're about. I actually used the village in Howard as an example, and he kind of gave almost like we'll see, you know, there's my example to you.
Exactly.
So it's odd because, you know, the response that one board member is giving to people who are now weighing in saying, don't do this, is that, well, none of those things would change. But that's not the feeling I'm getting from having, just from that hour-long conversation. And then I know, Brigida had to answer some things and this facility looks like, on paper, looks like it's not used to its maximum potential because it spends a lot of hours over the course of the week unbooked. Well, I was saying this before the meeting started. Our costs are the same to set the loft up for a little group of 20 people having a meeting or a 175 person wedding. So we're going to have to charge, the same prices. And, look, we're different on, off peak than we're on weekend because of supply and demand. But no one for a little gathering like this is going to want this building. It's not conducive to smaller gatherings that would happen, during the day on a weekday or on a weeknight. And what we would charge for it if it were, if we were doing that, no one would want to pay that when they can go, get a smaller place at a better price, or maybe even get one of the free rooms over at the east branch of the library where you can, gather 20 people or something like that. So it's just a lot of it. A lot of it doesn't make sense. It's, like I said, like Karen and I said in the letter, the whole thing seems to be a solution looking for a problem, and we're not sure what the problem is. And if the problem is they don't feel that, the use of the facilities and the revenue coming out of the facilities is maximized, I feel like they need a better understanding of how unique each of these facilities are. They're long-term leases on neighborhood centers, so we really can't cram other people in there, or that wouldn't be fair to the people leasing it. And like I said, in a facility the size of the other barn, it's just not a facility that's going to get used, 8 or 9 hours a day, 5 days a week during, normal business hours, plus the weekend events, because it's just not conducive to that kind of use.
And if I just can add, one of the frustrating things that I think I can speak to in that presentation that was given at the CA, in the presentation that was given to us, and the responses from the CA president indicating that he met with each of the villages and, the whole idea is how can CA help the villages? Well, yes, we did meet with the CA president. The majority of the village managers each had a meeting. And yes, we did talk about how CA and the villages could work together. And I think that we are more than open to working with CA if they'd like to help us, maybe come up with some new systems, or, currently we have a columbiavillages.org page that we've had. It was stated that it was not secure. It is secure. And when maybe somebody asks for an event, whether we think our building is way too large, or they think that, oh, that's way too large for what we're looking for, or just we're not available, whatever the case might be, we always refer, though I don't like to leave people empty-handed. So we always refer, Ashley will always refer people to that columbiavillages.org. And one of the things that was stated was that people who were looking to rent space had to call each of the 10 villages, and that was cumbersome. But the reality is when you are looking for a rental space, you often have to call each individual location. And the fact that we have a landing page that lists all of the 10 villages with their websites, the contact information, and then when you click on it, and it has a map of where they're located.
But that's just our village. Do the other villages do that as well?
No, it's an all village page. It has all 10 villages listed. I mean, and we would be happy to expand on that if we felt.
This is it.
It's not a great, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but that's just it. We would be happy to, expand on that and help with that. And one of the counterpoints is, I mean, tonight we asked if we could put our events on CA's website. Well,
The events page.
Right.
so I'm just not confident. I'm not confident that what they're proposing and what they're actually saying, that it's really gonna come to this beautiful fruition that they're stating, but more as it will be more just to generate more revenue. And that's the frustrating part to me.
Yeah, what I keep hearing is, it's, I mean, we're not, it's almost sounds like I think the purpose for the villages, or like our village, is to enrich our community. It's not to maximize profit of the CA buildings, and I think that's the whole argument, in my opinion.
And the reality is if you were to increase, I know, I'm not saying we couldn't get more rentals in here. I mean, we are available to rent during the week. The reality is there isn't a demand for rental of this sort of building during the week. We have sometimes inquiries and they come and tour and it's not exactly what they're looking for. Cause a lot of it is for meetings with breakout rooms. Well, we don't really have breakout rooms at the other barn, so it's not really a great place for a meeting, but we will refer them over to another village venue that perhaps is a better setup for that. And I did have a follow-up train of thought and it left me.
Well, and that's an example of where a decent portal could be useful, right?
Yeah,
You go to a landing page and you say, I'm looking to have a meeting with this many people and I need breakout rooms. And they would say, oh, the following facilities might fit your need. Here's how you reach them. Here's how you contact
Yeah.
them.
But we're not looking at booking and giving like
Right.
revenue, we just need
Right.
what shares.
well, and what I was gonna say is with each of those rentals, I mean, you saw our repairs and maintenance cost. We're not just renting the building, we don't just hand over the keys, that's the other, I think, a misconception is there's staffing during the event, and now we have two people because of large events, we need somebody at the front and somebody at the back. There's setup, cleanup, there's time in between setup and cleanup for that to occur, I mean, you're setting up for a 175 person event, it takes a little bit of time. And then you're cleaning up from a set 175. So as far as the uniqueness of each village, those are the things that, just some of the things that I don't think were considered, like, it's not just booking something for a block of time and that's it. There's a lot more that is involved in that booking before, during, and after.
Anything else? I'm done.
I was gonna say, we're not even on your operations report. You're talking.
I
but
know,
it's so
sorry, I
fun.
got it. Here, brought it up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Awkward.
No, this is good. Are you done?
Yeah. I'm
Thank
done.
you so much. Now we're on to you.
Sorry.
Just keep talking.
I know.
Someone get her some water.
Sorry about Passionate. I was looking for my report. Here it is.
I have it here if you need a hard copy.
So yeah, next Tuesday, I hope all of you will, who are,
here.
candidates for next year will be here. It's going to be very, casual. I'm gonna kind of have some food and drink, kind of like a mingling situation. But that's next Tuesday from 7 to 8. It will be here at the other barn. And
Now.
let's see, the events, since the last meeting, we've had our first, of 2025 Jazz in the Mills event. And it was an almost sold out event, but very huge success, very much enjoyed. And our next one will be on June 22nd with Warren Wolf, and it will be the first time he will be coming to the other barn. And I will say that my son is a vibraphonist and is somebody who mentioned him, and Lavinia made it happen.
Oh, nice.
So we are very excited to have him come and perform.
What is a vibra?
A vibraphone is similar, and I'm gonna describe this if my son hears me, he's gonna be like, Mom, don't ever do that again, but I think it's made of wood as opposed to a xylophone being made of more metal, so it makes a different sound. It's much larger.
It's really mellow.
It's very mellow. Yeah, from the musician.
Jonathan has pictures up already.
I was gonna
Yeah,
bring up sound.
Well, I will tell you, when you listen to it, and I'm still learning, and I'll ask him, is that a xylophone or is that a vibraphone? But you can, as I'm getting better, I'm trying to think of Yeah,
I may have to buy
Sounds good.
tickets because my dad used to love, there was a guy called, his nickname was Hot Mallets.
yeah, my son is at vibraphone, he's a player up at his college.
Oh,
in
nice.
His jazz band, and
They use mallets? too?
yes, and he uses, some of them use 2, some of them use 4. Well, he uses both. My son's learning 4, but it's
Really do.
very impressive. It's a very impressive feat. So, he actually just saw him last month somewhere I think in Schenectady, New York. So he's quite a well-renowned, but he's from Baltimore. Yeah.
Very cool.
Sorry, I was.
Thank you for that tangent.
There's all kinds of things.
Well, then he does good work for us.
And then, of course, we had our first Lively Arts concert, which was also a huge success. Amy did a wonderful job. It was a new music group, Tony M Music, with one guy, but he was wonderful. He even came down and intermingled with the children while they were waiting, and
He's from West Virginia and he's friends with Mr. John.
yeah,
Nice.
he was great. He was great. And how many people do you think we had here total?
Well, we had preschool here for one thing. Yeah, we had to have had at least 50 people here.
Yeah, it was a very huge turnout, so it was great.
And that's an example of a use of the building that doesn't go down as a rental.
Exactly. Yeah, same with Jazz in the Mill.
Programs in that.
And then tomorrow we have a CPR Narcan training, that Amy is, hosting. And we had to have registration, and I believe we are up to 17 or 18.
Oh, wow, well done.
people That will be.
Yeah, I
here
said
tomorrow.
A 20 limit, that it's 15 minimum, and it's presented by Howard County Fire and Rescue. And it's not certification, but I mean, what does that matter when you're saving somebody's life, so.
And
And that's
then,
an example of a use of the building. It's not a rental.
but we have a couple more. So on April 26th, well, that'll be in the courtyard, but we'll have our Earth Day, even though we aren't having elections. We will still have a nice Earth Day celebration with music and vendors and food.
Yards Alive, yeah, plant giveaway.
Yes, very important native plant giveaway. And then, of course, we have our flowers sale the first Saturday of May. So we're back into lots of events, Oakland Mills events. So Amy and I will be here a lot. And I think those are the big things. I have been in touch with Klein Properties. I don't know if you've driven around the parking lot, but there are a lot of potholes. So they will be coming out to repair them. And I also asked about the farmer's market, and it will officially begin on May 11th.
Oh, it's
So
warm out.
that is all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Brigitte?
Well done.
All right, Andrew, any architecture reports?
Yes,
Oh,
Jonathan,
Bill has-
Jonathan,
Oh,
I've
I'm
got
sorry, Bill.
no problem. Brigitte, when you deal with Klein, would you be able to deal with them on the curb on the side of LA Mart where people park? And it makes it very difficult getting in and out of parking spaces there between the ice rink and the side of LA Mart. The side of the LA Mart building, they used to have evergreens there. They took all those down. But I noticed that people park along there, plus they head in park against the ice rink, which they should. And people will walk through that corridor, cars are backing out, etc. To me, it's an accident waiting to happen. I don't know whether Klein can paint no parking there on their own, or whether they have to get the fire department in to do an analysis, etc. But if, my opinion, it would be much safer if along that whole curb on the side of the LA Mart building facing the ice rink and tennis courts, if that was painted red curb, no parking. So I don't know that process exactly, but could you talk with Klein about that as you talk with them about the potholes, please? Thank you.
I will do that.
Thanks, Bill. Sorry, I didn't see your hand raised up there. Anything else for Brigitte? Okay, now, Andrew, architecture, anything from the committee?
So I had, do you have a question? No, okay,
She's riveted, but she has to go.
okay, I prepared an inventory of all the applications that the resident architecture committee has gotten over this year, although, so I can either present it now and take about 10 minutes, or I can, if for time, if people like want to get out of here, I can save it till next year and then and we can actually make it a full year inventory of everything. So I don't really care too much if anyone has any preferences.
Do it next year.
You want
Or
to
next
next year?
Right.
Actually, you want to start by emailing it to us so we can look it over if we have any?
Oh, right, it's just notes. I was just gonna talk about
Okay.
it for like all the different like applications that have been like just like the labels, like so, for instance, the most common application has been tree removal and replacing. We've had 32 applications of that. Like deck installations or repairing or replacing, there have been 18 applications of that. And then there's just a few dozen other types of applications. I was just gonna list them and how many we've had. Yeah, it's a little late, so maybe I'll give the full report next
Okay.
next meeting. And then I can add it because I did it the full fiscal year, so from May, and then so if I delay a month, I can get the full fiscal year.
Yeah, and then we
uh,
can schedule a few more minutes on the agenda instead
Okay.
of cramming it in at the end as the quick committee reports.
Yeah.
Thanks, yeah,
Yeah.
sounds good. Okay, Lauren, anything public space?
Nope.
All right. Paulette, anything tenant committee?
I don't know if this is like, this was people on the tenant committee. People who came to a tenant committee meeting complaining about the bus system. Like, who do we talk to about that? Because I know it's been terrible for like all the time that I've been here. But that's it. Like, people complaining about, I guess they're newly taking the bus and they continuously just don't show up at the times they're supposed to show up, or just don't show up at all. And they've been emailing me and calling me every day about it.
Yeah, RTA is, well, the R is regional. It's a regional transit authority, so it's not even like
not Howard
a
County
county
anymore?
service anymore. I'm
Mhm.
actually looking right now to see like how you get,
I see the buses all around all the time when they're not picking people up.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The one that goes and picks up the kids for Oakland Hills High School usually
You
seems.
can't connect. They don't show. I mean, it's always been like that since I've been here, where the 8
So
o'clock
there's,
doesn't come. Mm-hmm.
So there's an oversight organization for RTA called the Central Maryland Transportation and Mobility Commission.
Okay.
And they actually met today. They met today at 1 o'clock at Central Library.
Oh, wow.
So let's see. But I'll send you a link because there are commissioners and there's representation from each of the counties served. So I don't know this person, but the Howard County commissioner is named Ron Hartman.
Okay, thank you.
I'll send you a link.
But he's in.
Okay, thanks.
He's in witness protection. They all are. Apparently.
They see the
I'm
shape of their heads cut
Yeah.
out on the website, but not
Yeah.
their faces.
Two people
Oh
have
my
actual
goodness.
pictures and the rest look like they're in witness protection.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So Paulette, Larry Schoen is the chair of the multi-mobile committee for the county. And I can send you his information. He might be a good source. He might be able to point you in the right direction as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anything else? All right, onto the bulletin board. Amy?
No, I don't think I have anything.
Okay. Just a few things. Now is the time where all the organizations supporting our schools go, oh my gosh, there's a lot still going on. We need to raise more money. So it's all in the education newsletter, but if you know, if you can help spread the word, the high school PTSA has a series of fundraisers and events to try to raise for end of year activities after prom, things of that nature. Fine Arts Boosters is having the mattress sale Sunday, which is like an easy fundraiser because if you just know people who need a mattress and they come in and buy, Fine Arts Boosters gets a cut. And the big thing Fine Arts Boosters is trying to do now is additional upgrades to the auditorium. That would be like long-term investments regardless of the renovation status. So additional repairs to the lights, perhaps a new sound system, stuff that can be uninstalled and then reinstalled should there be a renovation. The middle school PTSA is having a yard sale and a fundraiser to support the music in the parks and other things going on at the middle school.
Is there a place to get information about that? I don't get much from the middle school.
So it's interesting, the middle school sent me an email about that and a guy like left a message with a phone number to call him with no information about the date or time or anything. So I'm gonna have to call him and get more
Yeah,
information.
we'll probably do this, well, it may not go out until Friday, so we may have some time,
Okay,
but
I'll-
yeah, I'd
I'll
love
try
to
to-
get that information.
I'll try to call him because I mean, I have a student at the middle school and I get their newsletter and I don't know anything about.
Yeah, there's not much in there.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get it from the student.
No, no, I mean, the newsletter as a result of having a student, I'm like, I thought I'd see something about it in there. And then I can't even remember, but there is a Judy Center meet and greet, for the community on April 10th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's on the Stevens Forest Elementary website. Another nice thing, and obviously this is not just for the elementary schools here in our village, but countywide. They're looking for judges for the simulated congressional hearings, and I know I've done that and Brigida's done that. Amy, have you done? I think you. have you done it?
No,
You
I
haven't done it,
pretended to
okay.
make it.
It's really nice if you're able to do it. And it's not all on the same day. All the schools have their different days and there's a sign up you can go to on the HCPSS website and you basically go in and you act as a judge and fifth graders as teams make presentations and then you get to give them feedback on their presentations and it's usually like it's kind of a civics lesson, like, they'll have to debate, whether whether they're on the side of the individual or the collective good or different issues like that. And it's really, really interesting and really great to do and really sweet. And I've had the opportunity to do it several times at a couple of different schools. So I try to promote that as much as I can. So if anyone's interested in that and wants to know more, I'm happy to tell you all about my experiences. Brigida can as well. And like I said, you can sign up through the HCPSS website, or we can just provide you the links. And I think that's all I have.
I got nothing.
Okay.
Nothing tonight.
All right, Paulette?
No,
Okay, Bill?
Nope.
All right, then I think we're adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Good night. Oh, all right. Wow, made it to the end.